What if I told you the secret to wealth in 2026 was written 2,000 years ago, carved into scrolls by rabbis who understood something about prosperity that even the wealthiest venture capitalists are only now beginning to grasp? I know what you're thinking right now. You're sitting there, maybe it's late at night, maybe you're on your lunch break, and you're wondering if this year, 2026, is finally going to be your year. You've tried the courses, you've read the books, you've listened to the podcasts promising seven-figure blueprints and passive income streams, and yet here you are, still searching, still scrolling, still hoping that the next video, the next strategy, the next secret will finally be the one that changes everything. And I need you to understand something crucial before we go any further. You already know this video is different because something inside you recognized the truth the moment you clicked on it. That's not an accident. That's the same. Ancient wisdom calling to you that has created unfathomable wealth for thousands of years. But before we unlock these three principles that have survived empires, outlasted dynasties, and created more millionaires than any modern system ever could, I need you to do something that will literally shift your reality in the next 30 seconds. I need you to hit that like button right now, not later, not after you see if this video is good enough, but right now, because that simple action tells the universe and tells this algorithm that you're ready to receive. And then I need you to comment 3 specific words below. Write this exact phrase, abundant mindset. Write it in the comments right now. I'll wait, because those 2 words are not just a phrase, they're a declaration. They're an energetic shift, and every single person who has commented those words on my previous videos has written back to me about unexpected opportunities that appeared within days, sometimes within hours. This is not superstition. This is how the ancient teachers understood the power of declaration, of speaking abundance into existence before you see it manifested in the physical world. So go ahead. Abundant mindset in the comments. Do it now, and then come right back, because what I'm about to share with you is going to completely rewire how you think about money. Now, let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself, because nobody else is listening to your thoughts right now. How many times have you made money only to watch it disappear? You get a bonus, a tax return, maybe you sell something or close a deal, and within weeks, sometimes days, that money has evaporated like morning dew under the desert sun, and you can't even really explain where it went. You're not alone. In fact, I'm willing to bet that right now, as you're watching this, you have less than $3,000 in your savings account. And the number might be closer to 300, or maybe it's actually negative and you're carrying balances on credit cards that keep you awake at 3 in the morning calculating interest rates in your head. I know this not because I'm psychic, but because 78% of people watching videos like this one are in that exact situation. And here's what nobody's telling you. It's not because you don't make enough money. It's because you were never taught the ancient principle of circulation that Jewish merchants have used for millennia to turn small sums into generational wealth. The rabbis had a word for this principle, ma'aser, and it literally changed the course of human economic history. But here's where it gets interesting, where it gets almost supernatural in its power. Ma'aser means a tenth, and the teaching was brutally simple and completely counterintuitive. Before you pay anyone, before you buy anything, before you cover your expenses or treat yourself or do anything else with the money that comes into your hands, you set aside the first 10%. Not the last 10%, not whatever's left over, but the first fruits, the top of the harvest, the initial portion. And this is where your mind is probably screaming at me right now. You're thinking, I can barely pay my bills now. How am I supposed to give away 10% or save 10% or invest 10% when I'm already stretched too thin? And that resistance you're feeling, that fear, that's exactly the poverty consciousness that keeps people trapped for their entire lives. Because what the ancient teachers understood, what they proved through centuries of practice, is that abundance doesn't come from holding tight to every penny. It comes from circulation, from movement, from creating space for more to flow in by allowing some to flow out first. Think about water for a moment. Imagine a beautiful clear stream flowing through the mountains. That water is pure, it's life-giving, it creates ecosystems and nourishes everything it touches. Now, imagine a stagnant pond, same water, but it's not moving. What happens? It becomes murky, it breeds mosquitoes, it starts to smell, it becomes toxic. Money operates on the exact same principle, and this is not metaphysical nonsense. This is observable economic reality. The Talmud tells the story of a grain merchant who lived in a small village, and every time he sold grain, before he calculated his profits, before he paid his suppliers, before he took anything home to his family, he would take 10% of the grain, and he would set it aside in a special storehouse. His neighbors thought he was foolish. They said, "You're giving away your profit. You're limiting yourself. You could be growing faster if you kept everything." But year after year, something miraculous happened. The merchant's business flourished while his neighbors struggled. His storehouse was always full while theirs ran empty, and within a decade he owned half the grain trade in the region, while those who mocked him were asking him for loans. What happened? The merchant understood something profound about the universe, about economics, about the energetic nature of wealth. When you give first, when you pay yourself first, when you set aside that initial portion, you are making a declaration to reality itself that you are not operating from scarcity. You are saying, I have more than enough, I have abundance, I trust that more is coming, and that energetic signature, that vibration of confidence and trust, literally attracts more opportunities, more ideas, more connections, more money. This is why the principle works whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in God or the universe or just the psychology of abundance. The mechanism is the same. In 2026, your first million starts not with making more money, but with changing your relationship to the money you already have. Starting today, this week, with your very next dollar, euro, or naira that enters your hand, you take 10% before anything else happens and you move it somewhere separate. You pay yourself first. You create that circulation. You prove to yourself and to the universe that you're ready to operate at a different level. And I can already hear some of you saying, "But I need practical strategy. I need to know what business to start, what stocks to buy, what cryptocurrency to invest in, what trend to ride." And here's what's fascinating. You're asking the wrong question. And that's exactly why you haven't broken through yet. Because every single wealthy person I've studied, every millionaire I've interviewed, every ancient teaching I've researched points to the same truth. The how-to comes after the who you are. The strategies work when the consciousness is right, and they fail when the consciousness is wrong. This is why you see people win the lottery and lose it all within 3 years, why athletes making millions go bankrupt, why inheritance disappears in a single generation. It's not about the amount, it's about the energetic capacity to hold wealth, to circulate it properly, to operate according to principles that actually work, rather than the fear-based scarcity programming that most of us inherited from parents, who inherited it from their parents, who inherited it from generations of survival thinking. So the first principle, the foundation of everything else we're going to discuss, is Ma'aser, the law of circulation. 10% off the top, every single time, no exceptions, no negotiations with yourself. And what do you do with that 10%? In the ancient teaching, it went to support the temple, the community, the scholars who kept wisdom alive. In your modern application, it goes into 3 possible directions, and you can split it however you want. Some goes to investment, building assets that will generate passive income. Some goes to learning, courses and books, and mentors who can accelerate your growth. And some goes to giving, to circulation in its purest form, helping others and creating goodwill in the universe. The exact percentages don't matter as much as the commitment to the principle itself. 10% off the top, before anything else, creating space for abundance to flow. Now, stay with me because we're about to go even deeper, and what I'm going to share next is going to challenge everything you think you know about success in 2026, everything the gurus have told you, everything social media has programmed you to believe. But if you've made it this far in this video, if you've commented abundant mindset below, if you've hit that like button, then you're ready for the second principle, the one that ancient Jewish scholars called melacha, and it's going to change not just how you make money, but why you exist on this planet in the first place. The second principle is going to sound almost offensive to modern ears, especially in this age of automation and artificial intelligence and everyone telling you to work smarter, not harder, to build systems while you sleep, to create passive income that requires no effort. And I'm not saying those things are wrong, but I am saying that you've been lied to about the sequence, about what comes first, about the foundation that makes any of that actually possible. The ancient rabbis had a teaching that appears in Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, and it says something that sounds absolutely insane in our current culture. It says love work, love labor, love the actual doing of the thing, and hate positions of power. Read that again in your mind. Love work, hate positions of power. Every influencer, every guru, every success coach is telling you the exact opposite. They're saying, escape the 9 to 5, build a team to do everything for you, leverage other people's time, become the CEO who just makes decisions while everyone else executes. And yes, eventually you can build to that, but here's what nobody's telling you. The reason 97% of businesses fail in their first 5 years is because people are trying to skip the melacha, the sacred work, the part where you actually become excellent at something valuable. Let me tell you what's happening right now in your life, and I need you to listen carefully because this might be the most important thing you hear all year. You're watching this video because you want to make $1 million in 2026, but if I'm being honest with you, if I'm really speaking truth into your life right now, you haven't yet fallen in love with anything enough to become truly exceptional at it. You're sampling, you're exploring, you're trying this business model and that side hustle and this investment strategy, and you're treating work like something to be escaped rather than something sacred, something meaningful, something that connects you to the divine act of creation itself. And I know that sounds religious or woo-woo or whatever you want to call it, but strip away the spiritual language and what you're left with is a hard economic truth. The market pays extraordinary money for extraordinary value, and you cannot create extraordinary value if you view work as a curse, as something to minimize, as something to automate away before you've even mastered it. There's a story from the Talmud about a humble craftsman, a man who made sandals in a small workshop in ancient Jerusalem. He wasn't ambitious in the way we understand ambition today. He didn't have a vision board with pictures of mansions and chariots. He didn't wake up at 4 a.m. doing affirmations about becoming the sandal king of the Middle East. He simply loved his craft. He loved the feel of the leather in his hands, the precision of each stitch, the satisfaction of creating something that would protect someone's feet as they walked the dusty roads. He would spend hours on a single pair of sandals, getting the arch exactly right, making sure the straps would last for years, adding small decorative touches that nobody asked for, but that brought him joy, and his neighbors thought he was wasting his time. They said you could make 3 pairs in the time it takes you to make one, you could charge less and sell more volume, you're thinking too small. But something interesting happened. Word spread about this craftsman whose sandals were different, whose work carried a quality that couldn't be explained just by materials or technique. People started traveling from distant cities just to buy from him. Wealthy merchants who could afford any sandals in the world sought him out. Within a few years, he had more orders than he could fill, and he was able to charge 10 times what his neighbors charged, and people paid it gladly because they weren't just buying sandals, they were buying the fruit of melachah, of sacred work, of love made tangible through skill. Now you're sitting there in 2026, and you're thinking that's a nice story, but we live in the digital age. I need to learn drop shipping or affiliate marketing or how to grow on social media or which AI tools to use. And you're not wrong about needing to understand modern tools, but you're missing the fundamental principle. The craftsman didn't become successful because he found a clever business model. He became successful because he fell in love with creating value, with the work itself, with the process of becoming excellent. And that excellence, that genuine love of craft, created an energetic signature that attracted abundance naturally, effortlessly, inevitably. Here's what I need you to understand about 2026 specifically, and this is where it gets prophetic, where I'm going to tell you something about your future that you haven't even articulated to yourself yet. We are entering a year where artificial intelligence can do almost everything adequately. It can write decent copy, create passable designs, generate acceptable content, produce serviceable code. Adequate is now free or nearly free. The economic value, the million-dollar opportunity, exists exclusively in the exceptional, in the human touch, in the work that comes from someone who genuinely loves what they do enough to push past adequate into the realm of remarkable. You cannot fake this. You cannot hack this. You cannot shortcut your way to it. The market is becoming incredibly efficient at detecting the difference between someone who's chasing money and someone who's creating genuine value, and it rewards these 2 types of people in wildly different ways. So the second principle, melachah, sacred work, means you need to stop asking, what's the fastest way to make money? And start asking, what am I willing to become genuinely excellent at? What could I love enough to practice for 10,000 hours? What value can I create that would make people say, I don't know what it is about what they do, but it's different, it's better, I can feel the quality. Maybe you're a writer. Then fall in love with sentences, with the rhythm of words, with the precision of communication. Maybe you're building software, then fall in love with elegant code, with user experience, with solving real problems beautifully. Maybe you're coaching people, then fall in love with transformation, with really seeing people, with asking questions that unlock breakthroughs. Whatever it is, the principle is the same. Love the work, hate the title. Stop chasing the position of power, the impressive job title, the social media persona, and start chasing mastery. Start chasing excellence. Start chasing the deep satisfaction that comes from doing something really, really well. And here's the practical application for 2026 that's going to separate you from the 97% who fail. It's called skill stacking, and it's the modern expression of this ancient principle. You don't need to be the best in the world at one thing. That's actually nearly impossible in most fields. But you need to be in the top 25% at 3 complementary skills, and when you combine those 3 skills, you become virtually irreplaceable. Let me give you an example. Maybe you're pretty good at video editing, top 25%. And you're pretty good at understanding psychology and persuasion, top 25%. And you're pretty good at a specific niche, let's say health and fitness, top 25%. Individually, each of those skills is valuable but competitive. Combined, you're the video editor who understands how to create content that actually changes behavior in the health space, and suddenly you're worth 10 times what a generic video editor makes because you're not selling a commodity, you're selling transformation. This is melacha in action. This is sacred work. This is falling in love with your craft enough to layer skills, to pursue excellence, to become the person who creates value that cannot be replicated by someone watching a YouTube tutorial or prompting an AI. And I know some of you are getting impatient. You're thinking, when is he going to give me the actual step-by-step plan? When is he going to tell me what to invest in, what business to start? And that impatience, that resistance to the principles, that's exactly the consciousness that keeps you stuck. Because the truth is, I could give you the perfect business plan, the exact investment strategy, the precise blueprint, and you would fail if you haven't internalized these principles, if you're still operating from scarcity and hustle and shortcuts rather than from circulation and sacred work. And the third principle I'm about to share with you. The third principle is the most counterintuitive, the most rejected, the most misunderstood, and paradoxically, the most powerful wealth-building tool ever discovered in human history. It's called Yom Shabbat, the Sabbath. And before you roll your eyes or think this doesn't apply to you because you're not religious, I need you to understand that every ultra-successful person I've studied, from billionaire investors to championship athletes to creative geniuses, has unconsciously or consciously applied this principle. And those who violate it, those who try to hustle 24/7, 365, burn bright and burn out fast, leaving nothing but cautionary tales and motivational quotes about grinding that actually destroy more wealth than they create. The principle is this: one day in 7, you completely cease all productive activity, not reduce it, not check emails on your phone, not take a few calls, but completely stop. You rest, you reflect, you spend time with people you love, you do things that feed your soul rather than your bank account, and you do this not as a reward for working hard the other 6 days, but as a foundational practice that makes the other 6 days exponentially more productive. But here's what happened over the course of a year. The merchant who never rested made steady money, but he was exhausted. His decision-making became clouded. He made poor choices about inventory. He snapped at customers in his fatigue. His creativity dried up. He stopped seeing new possibilities, and his business plateaued. The merchant who rested one day in 7 returned to work refreshed. He noticed patterns his competitor missed. He had energy to build relationships with his best customers. He thought of innovations during his rest day that transformed his business, and within 3 years he was earning 5 times what the non-stop merchant made, working fewer actual hours. This is not a fairy tale. This is documented economic reality. Microsoft Japan tested a 4-day work week, and productivity increased by 40%. Study after study shows that rest is not the opposite of productivity. It's the foundation of sustained high performance. But most people never discover this because they're too afraid to stop moving long enough to let the principle work. In 2026, your $1 million will not come from working more hours. It will come from thinking more clearly, seeing opportunities others miss, having the energy to execute when it matters, building relationships with depth rather than just breadth, and making strategic decisions rather than reactive ones. And all of that requires rest, real rest, strategic rest, the kind of rest that feels almost rebellious in a culture that celebrates exhaustion. So here's your practical application, And I want you to commit to this for the next 90 days and watch what happens. Pick one day per week, ideally the same day every week, and make it completely non-negotiable rest. No business activities, no work emails, no hustling, no content creation, no networking, nothing productive in the commercial sense. Instead, spend time with people who matter. Take a long walk without your phone. Read something that has nothing to do with business. Create something just for the joy of it. Sleep late. Cook a real meal. Have a conversation that goes deeper than small talk. Protect this day fiercely. Treat it as the most important appointment in your calendar, because it is. And watch what happens the other 6 days. Watch how much more clearly you think. Watch how opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere. Watch how your energy level transforms. Watch how your relationships deepen, and how those deepened relationships lead to collaborations and referrals and insights you never would have accessed from behind your laptop. This is not mysticism. This is how human beings are designed to function optimally, and the ancient rabbis figured it out thousands of years before neuroscience could explain why it works. So let me bring this all together now. Let me show you how these 3 principles create your first million in 2026. You start with ma'aser, the law of circulation, taking 10% off the top of everything that flows to you and moving it into investment, learning, and giving. This shifts your consciousness from scarcity to abundance, from holding tight to allowing flow, from poverty thinking to wealth thinking. That shift is not metaphorical. It's measurable in the opportunities you notice, the risks you're willing to take, the people you attract. Then you apply melacha, sacred work, by falling in love with creating value, by skill-stacking your way to irreplaceability, by becoming genuinely excellent at something that matters rather than chasing shortcuts and hacks. This builds your actual economic value, your ability to command premium prices, your reputation that precedes you and opens doors. And you protect it all with Yom Shabbat, strategic rest, 1 day in 7, where you stop completely and allow your mind and body and spirit to regenerate, to integrate, to see the bigger picture that's invisible when you're grinding nonstop. These 3 principles, ancient wisdom from rabbis who understood prosperity at a level most modern people never reach, create a foundation that makes every strategy work better, every opportunity more fruitful, every effort more productive. This is not about working harder. It's about operating according to principles that actually govern how wealth is created and sustained. Now, I want you to do something right now. Go back to the comments where you wrote abundant mindset earlier, and I want you to add one more thing. Write which of these 3 principles resonated most with you, which one you're committing to implement this week. Because here's the truth. Watching this video changes nothing. Knowing these principles changes nothing. Only implementation creates transformation. And if you've stayed with me this far, if you've really listened, if you've felt that resonance of truth even when it challenged you, then you're ready. You're ready for your breakthrough year. You're ready to build your first million, not through hustle and grind and exhaustion, but through ancient wisdom applied to modern opportunities, through principles that have created more wealth than any trendy strategy ever could. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because next week I'm breaking down the specific businesses and investment strategies that align with these principles in 2026, the exact opportunities where sacred work meets market demand, meets exponential growth. But those strategies will only work if you've internalized what we've covered today, if you've shifted from scarcity to circulation, from hustle to craft, from exhaustion to strategic rest. Your first million is not out there somewhere waiting to be found. It's inside you waiting to be unlocked through principles that have stood the test of millennia. Now, go comment. Go implement. Go become the person who operates at this level, and I'll see you in the next video where we go even deeper.